Good morning. In this video, I want to quickly go through a test of a custom MT model that I have set up here in my Google Cloud Platform account. So what it does basically, it lets you uh, upload a translation memory, TM, and then train a custom MT model here that uses the data in your TM for machine translation, purportedly to improve the output. Let's just have a quick look here. I hope I'm not. Yeah, so you can upload your TM here. You can like see the whole TM right here. And then you can train it, and yeah, it gives you all these metrics. I think I've trained it a couple of times, and it's pretty expensive. Like I have 6,000 sentences in it, and it cost me like $100 to train it one time. Yeah, and they give you this evaluation. So they say, yeah, your BLEU score is improving. So BLEU is like, yeah, it's not a very it doesn't tell you a lot about the quality in my opinion. So here it says like the base model, like the Google NMT or whatever they're using as a base model is 32.8, and here they say it's 35.1, and so they say it's a performance gain of 2 BLEU points. That's what they say. I want to try it but that's the theory, so I want to try it for my actual test case. Let's have a quick look at the evaluation. Yeah, so they do an evaluation of your model and whatever. Models with higher BLEU scores have higher quality translations, and let's see if that's really the case, because there is no quality really depends on your requirements, I think, what terminology you prefer, and so on. So as you saw previously, I had this source text. Let me quickly pull it here. I've already done some annotations, but I want to quickly show you how it works. And I might also do a separate video on how to set this up. Oh yeah, and of course, very important, you can connect this custom MT model to your CAT tool or whatever, right? So there's ways, I will do that separately. You can connect it to like more sophisticated CAT tools will be able to do it, like MemSource, maybe Trados, MemoQ, I'm not sure. So you put in the source, then you translate, takes a while, and then you kind of get this output, so that you can use that to evaluate the quality of your output. And that's what I've done here. So I've made some annotations, and yes, so let's have a look. So here's the source, domain university administration. The left-hand column is my AutoML model, so that's my custom model that I've trained that supposedly has 2 more BLEU points than the baseline. Here's this baseline Google NMT, so I think that's what you get in Google Translate, basically. That's the engine running, powering Google Translate. Yeah, let's look maybe first at the sentence level before we look at the term level. So we have a pretty difficult sentence here, like blah blah blah, based on the law so and so, section so and so of the law, blah blah blah. We have made the following decisions, and if you look at these here, based on section 2 of the law, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, last amended by article blah blah blah, amending the law of Higher Education Act, blah blah blah, the Faculty of Economics, blah blah blah, on the Rudersdorf campus, so this is a fictional campus of a real university, has issued the following master's examination regulations, but this is not, the text is not from this university, I'm just using the name to test. For the business administration course. So here we have a couple of proper nouns that need to be verified, like this Higher Education Act. We have the name of the university, and also the name of the course. So first of all, yeah, both my custom model and the NMT, they do a decent job. I wouldn't change much in the way of like linguistically in the sentence. What I would change is terminology. But there's one thing that the custom model, which is supposed to be better, does not get right. It's too literal. So what it means in der Fassung der Bekanntmachung vom blah blah blah. So these are two nouns. Basically, what they mean is it's a verb published on September 16. That's what they mean. And my custom model, it goes with the two noun translation, so it goes very literal. In the version of the announcement of 16 September, blah 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 blah. Then there's also the issue that the official name of this university is Brandenburg Technical University. If you go on their website, that's what it is. Google NMT gets that right, and I think the big MT models like DeepL, Google, and so on, they're very good at like crawling the web and finding the right name of institutions that have their own website in two languages. However, yeah, my custom MT model made its own translation. It's never going to hit the mark. So if you don't have if you can't pull the English version from the web, and doing your own translation is a pretty risky thing. Yeah, and then the name of the course, Business Administration, I think is also in the underlying TM that I use for training. My model is also called Business Administration, Betriebswirtschaft, but it could be called a ton of other things. It could be called like management or whatever. So it's something you need to verify manually, or you need to know the organization that you're working for. So let's go on. Here, aim of Ziel des Studiums. Yeah, the preferred term here would be degree program, because Studium is shorthand, and that's where things go wrong. It's Studium is shorthand for Studiengang, so they are referring to the course or the degree program. Aim of the degree means like the degree is the actual, like I would say that refers to the certificate and not to the courses that you do. So that's something the NMT does better, and I can say it right away. The NMT, the untrained NMT is actually better at finding suitable target terms and than my trained model for some reason. Although like these terms are like the TM that I use is full of these terms, so it should be able to get them right. Let's go on. So yeah, this sentence for some reason was totally misinterpreted by the custom MT that I built. The degree should provide an in-depth comparative scientific and practice-oriented knowledge about concepts, methods, and techniques of the general, what? Taking into account the general aims of the degree, provide management with a focus. I don't know what came out. It's not a pretty sentence. Like, it's very bloated, right? It's like a mission statement kind of thing, buzzwordy. But the untrained MT does a pretty good job. Taking into account the general course goals, the course of study should be based on a first professional qualification, provide in-depth comparative scientific and practice-oriented knowledge about concepts, method, and techniques of general management. So this shouldn't be capitalized, with a focus on strategic and functional operative issues. So I would maybe rewrite the sentence when I translate, but you could leave it as is, basically. It's not supposed to mean anything. So yeah, you could write it more. You could definitely translate it manually and make it sound nicer. But yeah, why invest the effort? But then it gets interesting. So that's what my colleague Jeff has mentioned is the anaphora and cataphora. You see, I'm not a linguist, so anaphora, or like a trained, I didn't study linguistics. The students should be qualified to further develop these themselves. Die Studierenden sollen dazu qualifiziert werden, diese selbst weiterzuentwickeln. So this diese is a very difficult thing in German, because German, I think French does it too, they will put like these references to something that was said before, kind of pronouns or adverbs or whatever, and they'll place them like way later in the text, so there's no way a machine can find out what this diese is supposed to refer to. So the students should be qualified to develop them or these, but let's look at what it really refers to. The students should be qualified to further develop knowledge. So this knowledge, so some kind of placeholder, pronoun, or whatever doesn't work here. So what you will manually have to do is it's knowledge, or you could say like these skills or whatever, but you can't just leave the pronoun. Seems like a minor thing, but it's a recurring issue, and it yeah, can make things hard to read. This knowledge themselves and use them beneficially, or you go with these skills, but you're going to have to intervene here somehow. And to use them beneficially, yeah, profitably, productively, something like that, yeah, in the analysis and solution of strategic problems in national and international practice. So here they have mostly similar output. Yeah, you see, this is like kind of a mission statement for the course, and it's yeah, it doesn't read nice in the source. It's not going to read nice when you translate it. Yeah, um, but it's more or less accurate. If you look at the MT output, you'll have to touch it a little bit, but it's okay. The issue here is like you want to standardize your use of like section or paragraph characters and so on. So this can be some manual effort and like streamlining the terminology and whatever. So Studienvoraussetzungen, study requirements. So this is very literal, and what it really means is admission requirements. So this, what you need to get admitted to a course, and this will be referred to as admissions, and these are yeah, it's just kind of concepts that are, let's say, like parallel concepts. Yeah, because, and also, again, this is shorthand. Yeah, Studienvoraussetzungen is like Studienzulassungsvoraussetzungen. So the requirements you need to be admitted to the degree program if you really want to unravel it. Yeah, and then this can be shortened to admission requirements. So a very unpretty translation would be like, yeah, requirements for admission to the course. Yeah, if you were to kind of go with the long version, but it's valid. It's not going to cause any major issues to the reader. If an applicant has finally fails an examination. So here, the problem here is this endgültig. Endgültig nicht bestanden. This is very hard to interpret for the MT, and also humans will have difficulties. If an applicant has finally failed, so they mean, yeah, you have to really add more context here. And you see here the general NMT model doesn't get it at all. So if an applicant, they just say an applicant fails an examination. What they mean here is like you've taken all you basically failed all the examination and all repeat examinations as well. And this is kind of administrative shorthand, and you will have to add context. Otherwise, somebody's reading this and they're like, oh yeah, I failed my course, and like, what am I going to do now? And so you will have to add some explanation. Otherwise, they're going to run to the office and ask a lot of questions. And this is exactly why we translate these documents. If an applicant has finally failed an examination required under the examination regulations, in the chosen study program, so here we have again, yeah, the study program. The MT uses too many different terms. I would like to have always degree program or always course or something like that, right? University within, and then it gets difficult, and this is an issue that's also in English only legal language, is that these kind of, what are they? They're like functionally they're prepositions, but they might include a noun, and then they get very long. I think French loves these kind of connecting elements. So yeah, the German is im Geltungsbereich, yeah. So, but this should be really shortened. You would say like under the basic law or governed by the basic law, yeah. So this is something where I think it makes sense to intervene. It's a kind of stylistic issue. So you could, if you want, say in the area of application or within the scope of, you could do it. It wouldn't cause an issue. Then there's this he, she thing. So yeah, I prefer to use they or has lost. You know, the MT doesn't do it at all. So the smartest thing with this with the translating gendered languages is to kind of avoid having to mention these genders and then go like with something like they, or just rewrite the sentence in a way that you don't have to use these pronouns at all. And then there's a, yeah, like die Einschreibung für diesen Studiengang ist ausgeschlossen. So this again, enrollment for this study program is excluded. Here, that's a difficulty because it's this impersonal German tone. The enrollment technically isn't excluded. The student is excluded. So you would have to say something like the student may not be admitted. You know, if they have lost, you know, if they failed all your examinations, and in any other course in under the German law, like at any other university, then you cannot be admitted. So that's how you would have to phrase it somehow. But it has to be like the student may not be admitted or something like that. Yeah, you cannot say the enrollment is excluded. You can say it, but it is very literal and will be difficult to read. This applies accordingly, and both the NMT and my custom MT didn't get this right. Just another remark, like my custom MT has, I've trained it like the TM that I've uploaded, it's all done by me, so I would always like translate this differently, but it fails to kind of pull the right translation. This applies accordingly to degree courses of study, degree programs, same issues. See, it's not consistent, that are very close to the previous degree program in terms of content. Yes, so you're kind of, again, using this kind of preposition to kind of stick something on the back of the sentence, so that are closely related to the previous course. Yeah, closely related, it's kind of vague. So I would say something like, yeah, the courses whose content closely resembles this course. Yeah, so because the German source just uses a like this verb adjective, inhaltlich. Yeah, so they mean the course contents are very similar. Yeah, and then. Yeah, then the examination board decides on the substantial proximity. So I would say like the examinations course board decides what is a substantial similarity or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, there's. Let me go through the rest. I don't want to make this too long. Here again, there's a Verlaufsplan, so again a terminology issue. This is shorthand. It can mean a lot of things. It's very polysemic, so the source translates it, the custom MT calls it a progress plan, but it's something like a schedule, like a course schedule. Yeah, this is also too literal. So again, we don't even have to look at the source, right? We can read the MT, so this is something very good. It's kind of like an MT post-editing skill. You can paraphrase it. Let's look at it. Like let's look at the MT and say what it's trying to say. The admissions committee can determine an extended standard period of study for students in justified exceptional cases, taking particular account of the planned course of study. So what you're trying to say is something like the admissions. Yeah, I'm not going to type it here. The admissions committee can extend the study period in exceptional cases, taking into consideration like this particular the student's particular schedule, you know. So you would kind of have to rewrite this. I think it's difficult to understand the way it is right now. Corresponding schedules can be found in the appendix or annex or whatever you want to call it. Students who have not submitted an application, and there is a difference actually, so it gets mixed up a lot. I'm not sure what it, I think appendix is a part of the document and annex is like something attached. Make sure you verify it. Students who have not submitted an application for admission to all the graded in accordance with section failure. So I would just want to talk about this failure finally. So students who have not submitted an application, and here even my word grammar checker gives me a notification like who have not submitted who have not applied for admission. And here's a particular thing. Later they talk about a failure, or the NMT calls it an omission, yeah? So you would have to say something like students who fail to apply for admission to all of the graded examinations, blah, 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 so that later when you read it, you know, that student can prove that they're not responsible for this failure that I've talked about previously, and that kind of creates a little bit of more coherence in the sentence. Otherwise, it gets very, you know, you have to jump back and forth, and these are like strategies. But overall, let's sum it up. So my custom trained model, which I paid like $100 to Google for to train, is not better than their baseline model. Not at all. Terminology, I need to check it manually most of the time, but there are tools that kind of let you like inject or like add terminology on top of that, like in your translation tool. Anyhow, the output isn't bad, so a lot of the sentences you can reuse, but you're still going to really have to go dive deep and really know this kind of text and look into the context and know the institution and to really produce something that is readable, you know, because students, international students, they might really use these kind of regulation documents. That's why universities, they actually invest. They do not always translate everything, but they will invest in these, these examination rules, so the students, you know, they can check it themselves and will not have to always come back with questions. And I think readability and interpreting it and really keeping the target group in mind is very important, because the institutions, whether it's technical documentation or whether it's legal administrative texts, the organizations writing them, they tend to kind of sometimes be vague, you know, because they don't want to overcommit in their you know, they don't want to overcommit, and but that will lead you as a translator having to kind of really sometimes explicitate the mutual duties and what does the student have to do, what does the university have to do. So that is a big challenge in this kind of text. Yeah, so I think I hope this was helpful in like evaluating whether MT is useful for your case and how you can use it and what you have to do to make it work. Cost-wise, I can say, yeah, I mean, what really saves costs here is if you have a good translation memory, and because these, you know, these regulations, they might have like 10 courses and they all use the same document and or like the same template. So a lot of these texts are reused and versioned, and you can, if you have good previous translations, of course you can use your TM to kind of reuse them. Doing the whole thing from MT from scratch, I think in terms of effort, time-wise, would not be cheaper than doing it manually. And personally, and also a lot of the colleagues that I talked to, uh, I mean, if you're trained translator, also you're a lot faster than somebody who does it casually. So the first time I get these documents, you know, when there's no reliable translation memory available, or if there are like previous translations but they're not very good, you know, and I have to assemble my own TM maybe and align them, then I will do it from scratch and then reuse it from there and kind of, and then of course there's going to be some savings, but if you don't have any like good reusable low touch segments that you don't have to do anything with, I think it's yeah, it's you still have to do kind of at least the first draft manually. Yeah, so I think I've talked enough. That's it, and looking forward to your experiences.